I want to talk a little bit about Linux today. We've been talking about Docker so much, and it's such a Linux-based thing. I find that so many people are on Windows, it's kind of hard for them to grasp. So what I did is over in my Proxmox server, I created a VM that runs Fedora. Now I run Fedora as what I call my daily driver, which means that the operating system I use every day is in fact Fedora. So I'm going to show you guys what it'll be like to install this. So I'm going to come over here. If you had flashed Fedora onto a USB stick, which is not very hard to do, you can look up some other videos on how to use things like Balena Etcher, but basically had to flash an ISO file onto a USB stick, and you plugged it in and you booted it off that USB stick, you would see something like the screen that we're seeing right now. So again, because I'm virtualizing this, you're going to see it in my little window, but this is what your monitor would look like right here if you were booting off of the USB stick for the first time. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk through the installation of Fedora and just some basic features of it, because I think that once you see it, you'll be really surprised how different it is, but also how easy it is to use compared to something like Windows. Okay, so I'm just going to click Install Fedora. And you can see because I'm virtualizing, this is a little bit of lag behind my cursor and where the actual cursor is. But again, I just want to get this up and installed, and then we're going to work it from there. So it's going to be English. Okay, so we're going to click Installation Destination. That's it right there. So I'm going to hit Done. Okay, begin installation. Okay, so now our installation is complete. So now we're going to come over here to Finish Installation. Okay, so now I'm going to power off this machine. Here we go. We're booting up. Okay, so let's start our setup. I'm going to turn automatic problem reporting off, but you guys can leave it on. You definitely want to click that, enable third-party repositories. That's a good thing. Let's hit next. Full name, again, I'm just going to go with placeholder data. You guys can use other things. My password is going to be very weak. You guys will set a very strong password. All right, start using Fedora Linux. Okay, so this is Fedora. It is loading. There we go. I'm going to skip. You guys can take the tour on our bottom. So let's take a look here. So when I click this little thing up here, we'll see multiple desktops if we want it, and we'll see our apps down here. On this little thing, this little button will show all the apps that are pre-installed. So the first thing you're going to want to know about is basic apps. So let's come over here and let's just open a Firefox browser. And you'll see here, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to skip all these things just so we can get to Firefox. Okay. And this is the same Firefox you'd see anywhere. One of the things you'll notice is here, I don't actually have a minimize button, so let's change that. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go into our software. Now, software on Linux is a little bit different than it is on Windows. So you'll see here I have Explorer installed and updates. So Explorer is where I find new stuff. This is what's already on my computer here. I can uninstall anything really simply. I just hit click just like that, uninstall, it's gone. That's it. It's very simple. To run updates the same way you'd run Windows updates, you just click the Updates tab here. It's going to load all the updates. I would click the Install button here, restart an update, and it would install all these things. Now, I'm not going to do that, but you guys can go ahead and do that. So in Explorer, I want to add something called Tweaks. So I'm just going to start typing Tweaks. I'm going to add Gnome Tweaks right here, and I'm going to install it. Okay, let's open that. And it's that simple to do software. Oh, so this is actually now Gnome Extensions. So let's come back out here. Let's type in extensions. Gnome shell extensions. Let's install this. And you can see how quick and easy this is. This is not difficult at all. A lot of people will say, hey, I don't want to give people Linux because I don't think they're tech savvy enough. It's the people who are less tech savvy that I would give something like this because I think it's much more straightforward than Windows or really any other operating system for that matter. And it's very pretty. It doesn't really look great in the little console window that I have here, but I encourage you guys to install it. So let's come back out here. I'm not going to go to Firefox. Let's see what's open right now. This is what's open. Come, appearance, Windows. Here we go. So my minimize button. I want to have a minimize button here. So I'm just going to click that like that. Let's launch the extensions app. Let's launch you. There we go. So that's really cool. So let's come out of all this, close all that. So now you'll see I have a minimize button, which allows me to minimize Firefox out of the way, which is great. So let's come back in here. Let's open Firefox. Let's close it. Great. Let's talk about apps a little bit. So let's come back out here again and let's type in, well, I can just click the little icon down here for software, but I can also type in software. Let's find something like Chrome. So if you're using, there's Chrome right there. If you're using things like Outlook or Teams, they have some apps for that too. But I usually recommend going through Chrome. So for example, let's say Teams. If you're a Microsoft Teams person, this is Portable Teams. It works. I kind of like going through Chrome more. So if I was going to do that, I'd install Chrome, and you're going to see a couple options here. I just want to run you through this. See this under here where it says Flathub? There's an option here for multiple things. So Chrome exists for Flathub, and sometimes you'll see things for Fedora. I always recommend if you have a Flathub option, you take Flathub. Basically, in the ecosystem of Linux, Fedora has its own kind of repository, its own app store for its apps. But Flathub is one that's more universal, and it's a lot, and we're moving towards that. So, long story short, to save you guys a whole lot of listening, Flathub is the future. This is what you should be using. I'll show you the difference here. For example, let's look at something like LibreOffice. If you're a Microsoft Office guy, you don't have to pay for that in Linux. It's free. So this is the LibreOffice suite. You see how this install option says Fedora Linux? There's another option here for Flatpak and Flathub. So what we don't want to use, the red RPM one. We want to use either the Flatpak one here or the Flatpak one down here, the blue. We want to go any one of these blue. It doesn't matter which one. We can change where it's coming from. There we go. So you always want to go with the little blue one. That's Flatpak. Flatpak is what we want. We do not want the RPM. That's the old stuff that we're migrating away from. So right now, there's actually Flatpak stuff installed here. So say LibreOffice Writer, it's installed and it's installed Fedora Linux. I don't want this version of LibreOffice Writer. So we're going to remove that. This is their version of Microsoft Word. I'm going to pull this out. That's going to uninstall. So I'm going to type in LibreOffice Writer here. Come back in. It's a matter of uninstalling that. I'm going to give it a hot second. And when it's done, I'm going to change that. I'm going to install the other one. I want to install the one from Flatpak. And I could have both versions installed at the same time, but that might get confusing. So I don't want to use the Fedora Linux. I want to use, I think I have to actually install the whole package if I just want to use Writer. Let's see here, LibreOffice Writer. Yeah, see, there's no option here for that. So I'm going to want to just type in LibreOffice. So if you guys want to download the whole thing, you're going to come in here and you're going to use Fedora Linux and you're going to click install. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's the whole package for LibreOffice. So that's how to do apps, and that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Firefox is down here. This is the file manager. It's just like your Windows one. It's not super difficult. All your stuff is here. It's pretty straightforward. The only reason I would not suggest you use Linux in this day and age would be if you have a very specific program that only works for Windows. Like for example, if you're on the Adobe suite, if you're paying for Adobe currently, Adobe doesn't run on Linux, so you're probably not going to want to change from Linux to Windows. If you guys are gaming on Linux is a billion times better than it was, but it's still not as good as Windows. So if you're gaming, stick with Windows. But this is a pretty easy and straightforward thing to do. I'll run you guys through the settings menu real fast just because there's not a whole lot going on here. Your network settings are here, really easy. There's Bluetooth if you guys have laptops. Your display settings are here. You guys can blow things up. Sound, power, all the multitasking stuff. So you can use that. You can active screen edges. So for example, I can drag this over here just like Windows. I think it's not going to work with that. I got to use Firefox. But basically, It'll resize by pushing like that. We can go to dark mode, which is what I always prefer. There we go. It's a billion times better. These are all the apps that are installed. You can come in here for Firefox, for example, and change all the permissions if you want. Say Firefox is the Fedora Linux version. I actually want the Flatpak version. That's the one I would install. But anyway, let's come back out of here. Install your updates, notifications. You can turn on your do not disturb. All your notifications are going to show up under here. Here's your little calendar. You can set your weather location if you want. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. You can add your NFS mounts for your TrueNAS shares if you're running that. There's just a lot of options here. Printing is not an issue. If you guys have printers, don't let anyone tell you that printing is hard. Printing is super easy. Here's your online accounts. You want to connect your Nextcloud, your Google email, your G Drive, all the Microsoft stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff here. But this is basically Linux. So anyone that told you that Linux is hard, Linux is really easy. It looks a lot more pretty than Windows, and it's actually, in my opinion, way easier to use. Nothing more than installing software, running your updates, and that's pretty much it. So if you guys have Fedora or have the ISO, which I'm going to put the link in the video description, I encourage you to install this. Now, the best way to install this is not going to be alongside Windows. You can do a dual boot situation, but I wouldn't recommend that because in the event you choose to uninstall, funny things happen when you do dual boot. I don't like that. I don't want you guys to have any risk with your Windows installation. My recommendation would be grab another SSD, plug that in your computer, unplug your Windows SSD completely, boot off your thumb drive, which has got the ISO file flashed to it, and just install it fresh on a separate SSD and play with it for a little while. Really, really easy to do. Most people on this channel probably already have all your important files on TrueNAS and you're mapping it NFS share like I am. So you're not going to have to move any files or anything. The stock applications that come with it are pretty good. There's some other applications I'd recommend you install. Um, for example, what do I have on mine? A lot of the desktop stuff works. So I have Signal for my Signal desktop, which is amazing. I have WhatsApp on here, so I don't have to touch my phone. I use Skype for work, so you guys are going to see Skype on here. I have Teams installed on mine. I have Chrome. I have Electron Mail, and that's what I use for my Proton Mail. This is Electron Mail. This is the Proton Mail desktop app for you guys using Proton. My Discord is on here. Like all these things exist, man. It's just like Windows. Look how that's it. Install just like that. It's so much simpler. I don't have to go out and get exe files. I don't have to know anything about that. I can just click install, get everything where it needs to be. You'll see the nice cool blue verified check that lets me know that this Discord is actually from Discord. It's not from a third party repackager or anything like that. So all this stuff is really easy to do. I recommend you guys play with that and kind of just get used to it. The more you use Linux on a daily basis, the better you're going to get with it, and it's going to be really easy for you to get more integrated with your TrueNAS. So I kind of recommend you do stuff like that. Let's see if my Discord is in here yet. There's Discord. So I'm going to show you guys how to pin this to my dash. There we go. Now Discord's down there. It's attached to my dash. There we go. Discord's opening up. You guys have probably seen this a whole bunch. There we go. It's going to pop up in my Firefox. It's just my default browser and ask me to log back in. How cool is that? It's that simple. So again, this is a really easy thing to do. I strongly recommend it. There's one tweak that I only do one thing to this. I see how I have to click this to see my little bar. I don't like that. So what I do is I have what's called the dash to dock extension. I'm going to show you guys that now. Dash to dock. There we go. Install this. There we go. Look how cool. It's just everything just pops up. I didn't do anything. This is all being done automatically. So now, let's come out of here. Let's close this out, close that out. There we go. So now my dash is pinned down here. So it looks a little bit more like Mac. So let's come into my extensions, for example. Extensions manager. And I'm going to just do, this is my dash to dock. That's my new extensions. I'm just going to make this, you can do all kinds of cool stuff with this, but the one thing I want to do, intelligent auto hide, you can do that. I want to change the appearance a little bit. I want to change the opacity. Like that. And I want to move the intelligent auto hide off because I want it to stay on. There we go. So now I can see how you can see how I'm changing my opacity. The intelligent auto hide is cool because if I drag this over this, you'll see how it kind of gets falls behind it. If I leave the intelligent auto hide on, that'll disappear. But I'm just going to change the opacity. Now I'm going to close out of this. There we go. And now my bar stays down there all the time. It's one of the only modifications I make, and that's how easy it is to do. But I encourage you guys to play with this. Get better at using Linux. It's a really fun operating system. Don't let any of the big scary stuff, like you have to use command line or it's going to break. It's really easy to use. So I just recommend you guys kind of try it out and play with it and see what you think.